We have had lots of messages and comments requesting a video on the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. These are all from my previous videos on the Pfizer-BioNTech and the Oxford-AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. So this week's video, we're going to be talking about the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. We're going to be looking at all the evidence. We're going to be looking at how it works. We're going to be looking at who should get it and who shouldn't get it. We're also going to be discussing the recent news about blood clots, whether it is a risk with this vaccine or not. We're going to be looking at pregnancy and whether it's safe in pregnancy and what the evidence says, and loads more. Now, I appreciate this is going to be a really long video. It's going to be full of information, so if at any point you want to find any specific information, please do feel free to click on that description below, find the relevant chapter that you're looking for the information on, and click it, just to make your life easier. And also, if you want more information on the Pfizer-BioNTech or the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, I am also going to leave links in the description below and up here as well. And lastly, if you're wanting a video on any of the other vaccines, any of the other COVID-19 vaccines, if you want one on the Johnson & Johnson, if you want one on the Novavax, please leave a comment below as well, put your request in, and eventually, I promise, I will try my best to do a video on it too. Now, before we begin, I just want to make you all aware that this video was filmed on the 18th of April 2021. Therefore, all of the information I give you today is up to date on the day of filming, and as we know, things can change in the future. So the best way to stay up to date with all of the new information, all of the new news on the COVID-19 vaccine or on COVID-19 is to visit the NHS or WHO website or your own local government organisations that are trusted. I will leave links to these in the description below, so please feel free to check that out at any point. Okay, so let's begin with the basics. How does the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine work? Well, to help us understand how the actual vaccine works, we need to understand how the COVID-19 virus works. Now, I'm going to simplify this to the best of my ability. So, you have the COVID-19 virus. It has these spike proteins on the outside, and these spike proteins are what helps it attach to your healthy cells. So once the spike protein is stuck on, the COVID-19 virus is then able to pull itself into your cells and take over that cell. This is what's known as an infection. Now, the problem is the COVID-19 virus is very clever at hiding itself, and it makes it very difficult for your immune system to spot it and attack it. So now that the COVID-19 virus has taken over that healthy cell, it's then able to multiply and use that healthy cell to make more COVID-19 viruses, and it sends them out, and the spike proteins attach to more of those healthy cells and they pull themselves in, and the same thing keeps happening. Now, the problem is that it takes a bit of time for your immune system to notice that, and then the immune system, once it's noticed it, it's able to make these proteins which we call antibodies, and those antibodies are what stick to the spike proteins and stop them from sticking to more healthy cells. Now, on top of that, these defense proteins, these antibodies, also signal your immune cells, which are called T cells, to come over and give us a hand to get rid of this virus. They're able to gobble up the virus and get rid of it. Those T cells also signal other immune cells as well to say, hey, come over and help out, we need to get rid of this virus. Okay, so we're now starting to get somewhere. You now know how the COVID-19 virus works, but how does the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine work? Well, now that we know this, it's going to be very simple to understand. So this vaccine contains what we call messenger ribonucleic acid, mRNA for short. I'm sure you've all heard that word. It's been flying about everywhere at the moment. So this mRNA is in a fat bubble, in a protective fat bubble, and when it's injected into you, the cells take it in, and the mRNA works as a recipe, let's say. It works as a recipe, and those cells are then able to make those spike proteins that are on the outside of the COVID-19 virus that we spoke about earlier. So the mRNA helps your cells make those spike proteins that we know all about. So then what happens? Well, we get that immune response. So first of all, we get those defense proteins, the antibodies. Your body makes the antibodies. Then it calls the T cells. It says, hey, come over and give us a hand, like we said earlier. And then the T cells also called the other immune cells. And then we have all these T cells and antibodies floating around in the bloodstream. And what does this mean? Well, it means if you do get infected by COVID-19, we don't have that lag period that we just spoke about, because all of these things are already prepared, and it's going to kill the virus a lot quicker and get rid of it a lot quicker without the severity of the symptoms of getting COVID-19. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, wow, that was a really great explanation, and I agree with you completely. But you may also be thinking, well, what happens to the mRNA? Does it stay in my body? Well, no, it doesn't. It takes your body a few days and eventually it gets rid of it. It breaks it down and gets rid of it. It gets it out of the system. Also, please remember the mRNA and this vaccine and all these vaccines for the COVID-19, they're only teaching your body how to make these spike proteins. So you cannot get COVID-19 from the actual COVID-19 vaccine. Please remember that. In addition to this vaccine, so the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, doesn't contain any animal products, doesn't contain any preservatives in it either. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about the clinical trials. We're going to be talking about how the clinical trials went for the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. We're going to be looking at the evidence, which is probably my favorite bit, but I will try and keep it brief. And please remember, this is real science in action. So the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine clinical trials were done in the USA. There were 30,000 individuals in the sample of different age, gender, ethnicity, and race, which is a really good thing that you want in a sample. You want a nice broad sample when you're doing clinical trials. And in addition to this, they also included people who had at least one medical condition. So for example, there was heart disease, there was liver disease, there was lung disease, there was severe obesity, HIV infection, and diabetes, which is, again, is a great sign, because for a clinical trial to be good, you want a big population, a big sample, you want a varied age group, race, gender, all that sort of stuff that they've got, plus different medical conditions to reflect the normal life, the normal people that we live around. So of those 30,000 individuals, 15,000 of them received the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, and the other 15,000 didn't. They received a placebo. And the reason that you do that is it allows you to compare the vaccine compared to no vaccine when it comes to COVID-19. So to measure the effectiveness of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, scientists measured those defense proteins that we spoke about earlier, those antibodies. Now, one of the first things that they noticed is after the first dose of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, after 14 days, there was some level of protection against COVID-19, which is great news. They also then ran another test after doing 2 doses of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. So the phase 3 clinical trial showed that the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine has a 94% efficacy after 2 doses in people of different ages, genders, race, and ethnic groups, and in people with medical conditions such as asthma, chronic lung disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and severe obesity. And even more promisingly, the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine trial demonstrated that it is 100%, I'm going to say that again, 100% effective against severe COVID-19. This means preventing people from going to hospital with COVID-19. It means preventing long COVID, and it means preventing people from dying from COVID-19. And if that wasn't convincing enough, the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine video is now authorized in 40 different countries with no safety concerns so far. So now let's move on to getting the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. How is it administered? Well, it's an injection similar to the other COVID-19 vaccines. It goes in the deltoid, which is just about here. You then need to wait 15 minutes after your dose just to make sure that you have no allergic reactions. It's a 2-dose vaccine, and the second dose is usually given after 28 days. Now, it's really important to remember that if you've had any other medication injected or any other vaccine injected, you need to leave at least 7 days before you have your COVID-19 vaccine. Whether it's the Moderna one, whether it's any of the other ones, you need to leave at least 7 days. So please let your healthcare professional know. And this is because we're still not aware if there's any interactions between the two. And we want to give the vaccine the best ability to build up those defense proteins, to build up those antibodies that we really want. So moving on, the next thing that I want to discuss is who can have the vaccine. In the UK, the COVID-19 vaccine is free on the NHS for anyone who wants it. Now, there is a priority list that we're working through, which I will leave in the description below if you're interested. Now, if you're not watching this in the UK or in England, if you're watching it abroad at all, please check your own local government guidance for this in terms of who can get it now and who's going to be getting it later. Now, in the UK, the COVID-19 vaccine is currently being rolled out to those who are 45 and over, and many different people too. I am going to leave a list here as well somewhere, but please remember, there's no real point in going through this list on this video because it's updating all the time. It's updating weekly, it's updating daily, so please do check the description below, which I will leave a link to it, to stay up to date, to check if you may be eligible for it or when you will be eligible for it. So as I've mentioned, the COVID-19 vaccine will be offered out more widely with time, and this is all from the advice from the Joint Committee of Vaccination and Immunization, which we call the JCVI for short. These are a team of scientists who are super smart, and they come up with the list, so they check who's most at risk and they're put at priority to get the vaccine first, and then they work down it slowly. Now the NHS will let you know when it's your turn to have your COVID-19 vaccine, but on top of that, you can always check online as well. I will leave a link to it in the description below just to check when it's available for you, when you can get it as well, because like I said, this is changing every day, every week. The list is becoming more and more broad, and more people will be able and eligible to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And on a very serious note, there have been a few scams going on with the COVID-19 vaccine. People have been getting calls from people pretending to be the NHS, getting money from them, getting bank account details from them, getting personal details from them. Please remember, the NHS will never charge you for the COVID-19 vaccine, so just be very wary of who's calling you. So next up, let's move on to who cannot have the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Currently, if you have a history of severe allergic reaction or an anaphylactic reaction to any of the ingredients in this vaccine, then you need to avoid it. I will leave a full list of the ingredients in the description below. Now, in addition to this, if you've had the first dose of an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine, let's say for example the Moderna one or the Pfizer one, or if you've had a first dose of any of the vaccines, actually the COVID-19 vaccines, and you've had an anaphylactic reaction to it, then your second dose, you must not get the same COVID-19 vaccine. Let your healthcare professional know, make them aware of this as well when you go for your appointment. Now, another point that's useful to note as well is that the MHRA have stated that any patients who have had an anaphylactic reaction to a food, a drug, a vaccine, or an insect sting can still get the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine as long as they are sure that they are not anaphylactic, so they don't have any anaphylactic reactions to any of the ingredients in the vaccine. Now, in addition to this, the British Society of Allergy and Clinical Immunology have also stated that any patients who have an immediate onset of anaphylaxis to multiple classes of drugs or any unexplained anaphylaxis can still get the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. However, they will need a discussion with an allergy specialist, and in some cases, you may need to be observed for at least 30 minutes after your vaccine. Now, the most important thing is though, that you just make your healthcare professional aware that you have a history of anaphylaxis, or if you have a history of severe allergies, make them aware on your appointment so they can check this for you. That is the most important thing, because your safety is the most important thing. Now, currently, pregnant women and children under the age of 16 cannot get the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. However, this is ever changing and things may change in the future. I am going to discuss pregnancy as well in the next part, so please stay tuned for it. And also, please remember that if you do have COVID-19 or if you have the COVID-19 symptoms, please do not go to the vaccination centre for your COVID-19 vaccine. Please stay at home, please isolate, please do all the government guidelines, whether you're in the UK or wherever you are. Please follow your government guidelines on what to do if you have COVID-19 or if you have COVID-19 symptoms. Please don't come to the vaccination centres, because all you're going to do is spread COVID-19, and that's the last thing that we want. Okay, so now let's move on to pregnancy. You may be aware that many vaccines can be given during pregnancy safely. So why is the advice currently for the COVID-19 vaccine to be avoided in pregnancy? Well, it's very simple. You see, the COVID-19 vaccine, whether it's the Moderna, whether it's the Pfizer, whether it's the Oxford AstraZeneca, they haven't been tested in pregnancy yet, and until those tests and them trials are done in pregnancy, it should be avoided to have during pregnancy. So what we do need is what we call non-clinical evidence. This is required before a full clinical trial can be done to check the safety of the COVID-19 vaccine during pregnancy. This is usual protocol. It's nothing different to what we usually do for other medication, other vaccinations. It's just usual protocol. So please remember these facts. This is usual protocol. It doesn't mean that the COVID-19 vaccine is unsafe during pregnancy. It doesn't mean any of that, because unfortunately there is a lot of misinformation out there on this topic at the moment. It's just usual protocol, and more evidence is needed before recommendations can be made. Now, in the UK, the JCVI currently advises on 2 special conditions where the COVID-19 vaccine can be given during pregnancy. The first condition is if your job or occupation puts you at a higher risk of getting COVID-19. The second condition is if you have a medical condition that also puts you at a higher risk of complications if you were to get COVID-19. And in terms of breastfeeding, there's currently no data or any safety concerns with the COVID-19 vaccine in breastfeeding or on breastfed infants, and the benefits of breastfeeding are widely known. And as a result of this, the JCVI recommends that the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine and all the other COVID-19 vaccines can be given during breastfeeding. And this is in line with the recommendations in the USA and by the WHO, the World Health Organization. Once again, please do remember that this video was filmed on the 18th of April 2021. All of the information given in this video is up to date at this point now, but things can change, and we know things can change. Science is improving, we're learning more, we're doing more research, so things will most likely change. So as a result, please always stay up to date with the most up-to-date information from the NHS, the WHO, or any of your local government organisations that are known and trusted. I will leave links to these in the description below. So next up, let's talk about side effects. The side effects of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. So first up, we've got the sore arm at the point of administration. This is probably going to be the thing that most of you will get. I know I got it, my friends got it, my colleagues got it. It's that sore arm after an injection which lasts for a couple of days. This is probably the worst bit of it. Sometimes you can also get a bit of a rash around it. The other sort of side effects as well are a fever. You might feel a bit nauseous, you might feel a bit tired, you might feel a bit achy, and you may even get headaches. Now I am going to discuss headaches a bit further on as well. Now please remember, these symptoms, they aren't long lasting. They can usually last for up to 7 days, but then they do go. But if you're concerned about any of them, please do speak to your healthcare professional about them. Now let's talk more about these headaches. I know in the news recently, it's been all over the media about the blood clots that are associated with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and as well as the Johnson & Johnson one now as well. But today, I don't think there have been any reports yet for the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. However, I did think I'd do a section on this anyway, because a lot of you have been messaging me and commenting all about this and want more information on it. So let's put some more information on it. And also please remember, do read that description below for more up-to-date information. Like I said, this video was filmed on the 18th of April 2021, and there may be changes again in the future. So please do stay up to date with the NHS, the WHO, or your relevant government organisations, all of which I'm going to leave in the description below. So let's talk more about these blood clots. So please do remember that these blood clots are very rare, and also, like I said, in the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, so far we haven't seen any of these blood clots, but things can change with time as well. I'm going to leave a box here. It's going to be full of information of the symptoms to look out for. Please remember, if you get any of these sort of symptoms from day 4 to 28 of having the vaccine, any of the COVID-19 vaccines, then please contact NHS 111 if you're here in the UK, or speak to your healthcare professional urgently for more information. I am also going to leave a link in the description below with more up-to-date information on this, which probably will update as well. Unfortunately, we can't update a video once it's already been done, but please do check out that link. So now let's briefly look at those rare blood clots that can happen that have been associated with the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. So we're just taking a quick break from the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, and we're talking about the Oxford one now. So in the UK, 20 million people have had the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. And of those 20 million people, 79 people have reported these rare blood clots. And of those 79 people, sadly, 19 people have died from this blood clot. Now, of those 19 people, all of them had low platelets, which we call thrombocytopenia. So in addition to the blood clot, they had these low platelets as well. Now, if you want to look at it statistically, which is the thing that you always do with medicines and in medicine in general, it's all about statistics and looking at the risk versus the benefit. So of those 20 million doses given with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, if you want to look at it as a percentage, 0.0000395% of people got this blood clot. And of those people who got the blood clot, 0.0000095% of them died from the blood clot. So it's a very, very low number. So to put that into some perspective, during the same time period, so up until the 31st of March 2021, there's been 4.3 million cases of COVID-19 here in the UK, and 127,000 people have sadly died from COVID-19 here in the UK. So if you want to look at that as a percentage, that's 0.03% of people who have got COVID-19 have sadly died from the virus. So based on these facts, you are much more likely to die from COVID-19, the virus itself, than you are from this very, very rare blood clot that has been linked with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. The facts have said it, I've given you the figures, it's very, very, very rare. So please remember that. And we know that the COVID-19 vaccines work really well. They've helped to reduce hospitalization, they've helped to reduce severe COVID-19, they help to stop and reduce long COVID and all of those horrible symptoms that are associated with COVID-19 that we're seeing in practice, people who are suffering from long COVID symptoms. So please do remember these facts when it comes to the blood clots. And I know it's worrying and I know it's concerning, but I really hope that these facts just help with that. Now, moving back onto those side effects that we were speaking about earlier, please do remember that they are all quite minor, but if you are struggling with a fever, a temperature, or a headache, or anything like that, you can take paracetamol or ibuprofen for them. It's completely fine. It doesn't interact with the vaccine. It's completely fine to take these. However, please do first speak to your healthcare professional before taking any medication, just so they can check that it's safe and suitable for you to take that medication. That's the most important thing. And in addition to all of this information about the side effects of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, please remember, this is a new vaccine, it's a new medication, and scientists all over the world will be gathering information and data on it. And I mentioned this in the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine video that I did, and in the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine video that I did. Here in the UK, we have the Coronavirus Vaccine yellow card reporting scheme, which is super important that you're all aware of. If you do develop any side effects, please do go online, and we'll leave a link to it in the description below, and report that side effect. If you don't have access to the internet, or you can't do it online at all, you can always report it to your healthcare professional and they can do it as well for you. But patients can do this as well, and it'll probably make their lives easier as well if you're able to do that, and we can get all of that data gathered, which is going to be super important and useful when it comes to these new medicines and new vaccines like this. And another important point just to discuss is, please don't forget those classic COVID-19 symptoms. Remember, you may have caught COVID-19 prior to getting your COVID-19 vaccine. So remember those symptoms. If you've got a new continuous cough, if you've got a loss of your smell or taste, if you've got a fever, so you feel hot to touch on your chest and back. Previously we used to say a temperature, but now if you're feeling hot to touch on your chest or back, any of these symptoms, you may have COVID-19, so please follow your local guidance on what the procedures are. If you're here in the UK, you need to self-isolate straight away. Anyone in the household needs to self-isolate straight away and arrange a PCR test as well, and speak to NHS 111 or visit the NHS website for guidance on what you need to do next. Again, I'm going to leave all this information in the description below. And now on to the final burning question: how long will this vaccine be effective for? Unfortunately, we can't see into the future, so with the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine and with all of the COVID-19 vaccines, we will need to see in the future whether boosters will be required to increase those antibodies that we spoke about earlier. So maybe something like how we have the flu jab at the moment, how every year we get a vaccine. There may be something like this similarly happening, but again, more research and more data is needed to find out exactly what the plan is going to be on this. So I think ultimately the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine has proven itself from its data to be safe. There's been no safety concerns with it so far. 40 different countries have approved it with, again, no safety concerns. Looking at the clinical trials, it was done on a large population. There was different medical conditions included. It was done on different ages, ethnicities, races, the different genders. Everything you really want in a sample was done in the clinical trial, which is really important. And again, there were no safety concerns. But again, once again, like I always say, this video was filmed on the 18th of April 2021, and most likely things will change in the future. There will be more data, there'll be more information on this, so please do stay up to date with your local government organisations that are known and trusted, like the NHS, the WHO, or wherever you are. I will leave links to them all in the description below for you. Another important thing to note is despite all of the COVID-19 vaccinations that are happening, whether it's the Moderna, the Pfizer, the AstraZeneca, whichever, we still need to make sure that we remain socially distant from each other. We still need to make sure that we're wearing our masks, we're washing our hands often, we're doing all the things that we've all got used to with the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to reduce the spread. We still don't know how much these vaccines, if at all, they are going to be reducing the spread. So we need to be doing what we can do as well. So please don't just think, oh, I've had the vaccine now, things are going to go straight back to normal, I can go close to all my friends and do everything that I wanted to do before. We need to still follow the guidelines from our governments, from our local organisations that we know and trust on reducing the spread. This is the most important thing that everyone should take home from this video. And please do remember, we looked at the data together. Remember, the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine and all of the other COVID-19 vaccines, they don't prevent you from getting COVID-19. You can still get it, the data says it. However, we know that the severity of the symptoms of COVID-19 are massively reduced with the vaccine. So please do remember again, if you get any of the COVID-19 symptoms that we all should know now, the new continuous cough, a new fever, so you don't need to look at temperatures anymore, you're just touching the chest and back if it's warm to touch, any loss of smell or taste, any of these sort of COVID-19 symptoms, I will leave a box here as well with that information as well. You need to self-isolate, everyone in the household needs to self-isolate, you need to arrange a COVID test, you need to follow your local government guidelines on COVID-19. That's what we do here in the UK. It might be different where you are, but please follow those guidelines and reduce the spread. That's all we want to do, reduce the spread. And just one last reminder, please remember again that this video was filmed on the 18th of April 2021. Once again, all of the information given in this video is up to date on this date, however things can change, and we know things do change. As we get more information, things will possibly change. So please stay up to date with your trusted organisations that we know, the NHS, WHO, or wherever you are, your local government organisations that you know and trust. Please stay up to date with them. I will again leave all those links in the description below for you as well. So if you have made it this far in this video, I want to thank you. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you found this information helpful. Please do leave a comment below as well. Let me know what information you'd like to know for a future video. If you want it on any other COVID-19 vaccines, we can do a video on it. It's no problem whatsoever. Leave a comment below and also let us know how you get on with the vaccine. If you've had the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, let us know. And if you've had any of the other ones as well, leave a comment below and let us know because I'd love to read it and I'm sure everyone watching this video would love to read it too. So that's the end of this week's video. As I say in every single video, always remember you're awesome and I will see you next week, Monday 4 PM GMT as usual. Sending awesome vibes. Hey guys, thanks for watching this week's video. Make sure to click that like, follow or subscribe button now to stay up to date with new weekly videos.